Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at Super DC Giant number 27. This issue presents Strange Flying Saucers Adventures. This is from 1976. Super DC Giant was an anthology, a very odd anthology. One issue might be a bunch of romance comics reprints. The next issue would be a bunch of Johnny Thunder, Western comic reprints. And this one happens to be all reprints from the Silver Age comic Strange Adventures. But all with a flying saucer theme because UFOs were kind of hot in the mid-70s. I love this cover, just taking panels from the inside. I always like when they have covers like that. But this issue is kind of special to me because it's one of the few comics that I bought back when I was pretty little. I mean, I wasn't even 10 when I think I bought this because it came out in summer. And most of the comics that I bought back then have long been kicked out of the Academy because, the herculespetix Academy it's very curated, our library. And I don't see much stuff just because of nostalgia. I just don't have room. So one of the few comics I bought off the rack, before I was 10 that I still own. It's really not that many. I've gotten rid of all of those, and some of them I got rid of, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when I was a youngin'. Let's get into this. So what a nice way to start off. We have Secret of the Flying Buzzsaw. Story by Gardner Fox, Golden Age science fiction writer and comic book writer. And art by Russ Heath, pencils and inks. This is some nice stuff. I believe this is, I could check this one out. This was originally published in 1960. We, of course, always have the splash page, which kind of teases you what's going to come at the ending. So let me say, this story it's pretty dumb if you analyze it. A lot of these comics, the science is so off and silly, but they do give the kids who are reading them these cool images where you're like, oh, how the hell did that happen? So the story begins. These flying saucers come to Earth. They start driving pylons into the ground, but also some of the flying saucers are like buzzsaws, and they chop off all these buildings. I like how the editor made the writer add, "Good thing it's a holiday. There's nobody in those buildings." I'm sure there'd be a janitor in there or something. What office building is completely empty, ever. And but they always have to do that. Like whenever the Hulk would knock down a building, someone would have to say, someone off in the corner would have to be like, "Oh, good thing that building was marked for demolition, so nobody was hurt." So the U.S. Army, the Air Force comes out. Their missiles are useless, just bouncing off these flying saucers. We see the alien inside one of the ships, and he says, "Oh no, they're firing at us. Staloran was supposed to tell them our mission here." Turns out Staloran crashed in the desert, so he couldn't. I don't know why they would just let, give the job to one guy. I think they just all announced to the Earthmen, like, "Hey, we're here for this reason." So we see this scientist and his girlfriend, and they're driving out in the desert, and the girlfriend's complaining. I'm sorry, she's his wife. She's complaining about how he never does anything. He doesn't go to the country club. For all intents and purposes, most people don't even know she's married. They never see her husband because he's working on this gravitron, this scientific device, and he spends all his time doing that. Some nice Russ Heath panels here. Well, almost everyone's a nice Russ Heath panel. So they find this alien. The alien tells them that the reason why these aliens are here is because a white dwarf star is hurtling towards Earth. And this happened to us. We come from a planet that was in your solar system a long time ago. And this white dwarf star basically shattered their planet. Luckily, a few of them got into some flying saucers. I guess they've just been flying around for millennia. And their planet became the great asteroid belt. So they're here to help us. And, of course, a pretty dumb explanation for why they had to buzzsaw buildings off. Because, and they had to put those pylons in the ground. Because supposedly this repeller beam, they have this repeller beam, they're going to repel the white dwarf star. And it has to be built on this weird bridge-like thing. And they had to level some buildings to make room for it. So it's just like, oh man, that's such a lame explanation. Just to get that sexy scene in the beginning with the buzzsaw UFOs. Okay, so apparently there's a miscalculation. The white dwarf star slows down for some reason. The repeller beam misses. So it looks like Earth is doomed. Apparently, when the white dwarf star gets closer to Earth, it'll flatten every structure and mountain. And also, its intense gravity will suck everything up into the air, into the atmosphere, and towards the white dwarf star. That is such a great panel. Look at this, of all these people floating upwards. I love that. God, there's so many great panels in here. Heath is, I love that man. And so the scientist guy says, hey, I got an idea. I got this gravitron. So it basically can reduce gravity to zero. So I could fly to that white dwarf, propelling towards Earth. Because the gravity on the white dwarf star is like 303 million times more than Earth. He would just be turned into a pancake. But he says, yeah, but I got this device. I could plant a bomb and then get off. And then they totally ignore any law of science. Like Gardner Fox was kind of a steamed science fiction writer. You'd think he'd know better. The gravitron lands on the planet, and then he says something about how I better plant this bomb before the zero gravity wears off. So even though he's not in the gravitron, somehow there's some residual gravity clinging to him. It's so dumb. I mean, seriously, 3.5 million times more gravity. It doesn't matter. It's hard to believe anyway that you could counteract that with this in the machine. And so he plants the bomb, and as he walks back to his gravitron, the zero gravity starts to wear off. Like I said, totally dumb. Look at these great panels, though. This is some beautiful illustration work. So he barely makes it back to the spaceship. I like that face, too, there. And he escapes the white dwarf. And then when he gets home, he's a international celebrity. Of course, he saved the world. And now his wife is like, we can never be by ourselves anymore. So those women, they're never happy. So this comic resonated so much with me as a little kid. So I grew up in the 70s where they weren't really making many new superheroes in the 70s. All the comics were like Conan, horror comics, Swamp Thing. Well, Nova came out, but I didn't like Nova. So this is a story from, I believe, 1950. Let me check this out. 1956. This originally appeared. And I remember as a kid thinking, like, how come we never saw this guy again? He's the coolest looking superhero I've ever seen. And he's just in this one story, The Man Who Grew Wings. I realized, never mind. Story by Otto Binder, another sci-fi author who probably wrote hundreds of comics in his career. Art by Sid Green, inks by Joe Giella. Very classic DC team. They did hundreds of stories for Strange Adventures, Mysteries in Space, tons of comics. So, I still think he looks cool, even though he's got the beak. This is a cool looking superhero. And as a kid, I didn't know this. So this came out in 1956, early 56. So this is kind of like beating the Silver Age, because I believe that first Flash in Showcase number 4, which kind of heralded the start of the DC Silver Age, maybe it was January 56, I don't know. But they've got this, it's almost like they were doing a trial run for a superhero. The superheroes were in the wind, It was in the ether. So, but then I thought about it. I was like, oh, but pretty soon they brought back Hawkman. So maybe they were like, we got Hawkman. Why do we need this ersatz bird character? So, really, I love all these logos in these old comics. The letters really did nice work. They don't know who lettered it, of course. Back then, they never credited that stuff. So we see the scientist. He's looking at penguins and swift duckhawks and like, how come penguins, they have wings, but they can't fly? The duckhawk can fly 180 miles an hour. How come ants don't have wings and can't fly, and flying wasps can? Maybe there's a certain element X. He calls it element X. Maybe this will bestow the power of flight. He basically surmises that any creature that can fly must have this element X in him. I mean, that's really bad science. I mean, that's a 10-year-old could be like, that doesn't really sound right. So he gives it to this ant. It grows wings the next day and flies off. He gives some to the penguin. I thought this was really adorable, this flying penguin. He's so cute. And then the ant bites him on the arm. The next day he's growing little wings. And they work. And he's flying around like a bird. He practices until he's faster than any bird in the sky. And he makes this aerodynamic outfit, which I still think looks pretty cool. So he can go like 600 miles an hour. They go 6,000 miles an hour. And he even has good vision, like a bird, like an eagle. So he's flying around one day. He sees a UFO. He basically disguises himself more like a bird, like actually puts feathers on. So if the UFOs see him, they'll just think, oh, it's one of those earth creatures. Look at these guys with their no mouths. They're pretty funny looking. I like them. And they use telepathy to talk. And so he could eavesdrop on them, or the scientist. And this is just so dumb. So they're thinking to themselves, after charting Earth weather for 9 years, we're ready to attack. We had to postpone our invasion every time because lightning, which is unknown on our homeworld, neutralizes our fission guns. And I guess there's 144,000 lightning bolts strike Earth every day. So they had to wait 9 years until there was not one lightning cloud or one storm cloud over North America because they want to attack Earth. I'm sorry, they want to attack America since America's the biggest country. And finally they're ready after all that waiting. Once again, that horrible DC exposition shit. So we just saw this, right? Now we see Birdman, or whatever his name is, and he's thinking, so that's why the saucers kept moving above Earth for 9 years without landing or making contact. They were waiting for favorable weather conditions to make a sustained attack, which they just said. It's just so bad. There's so many examples of this era of DC where the caption will say something, the character will be doing it, it'll be describing what the character's doing, and then he'll be thinking what the caption just said. So the saucers attack. And the bird guy's like, I gotta do something. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these lightning bolts, storm clouds grow and lightning bolts, and all the ships start blowing up. I guess it makes their guns backfire, their fishing guns. And they all crash into the ocean. And it turns out that the bird guy, he seeded the clouds with silver iodide and made all those storm clouds. Saved the Earth. His wings start to shrink as he gets closer to home. The flying serum is losing its effect. And wouldn't you know it, a lightning bolt struck his cabin, destroying his notes and formula for element X. I wonder if I'll ever discover the secret of flying again. So it seems pretty likely that he could remember the formula since he worked on it for a year or so. And he's a scientist. I'd like to think he has a decent memory. But he never came back. Maybe Grant Morrison will bring him back one day and put him in a comic. But I don't like him with the feathers on. He looks kind of silly here. But that sleek costume, oh man, I still think he'd be great. I want to see the adventures of that guy. But man, when I was 9, I was just like, this is the coolest superhero ever. How come he doesn't have his own comic? Next, we have The Flying Saucer Boomerang. Story by Otto Binder. Art by Carmine Infantino. You know, I have so little Carmine Infantino. I think I want more, especially this era. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Bernie Krigstein. Just that really unique style of his own. Very stylized. There's so many interesting panels in here. But I didn't like 70s Carmine Infantino. When I was a kid, I hated his art. Like when he took over Star Wars, I was like, yeah, everyone's face is a foot wide. Weird looking. Okay, so this is about these two hoaxsters. Apparently there's a conference. They offer $1 million to anyone who can shoot down a UFO. These two brothers who own a model aircraft shop, they're like, hey, let's basically give ourselves a month. We can do this. So they make this fake flying saucer. They got a catapult. It's made of balsa wood. It's got some rockets on it. And for a week or so, they shoot it up over town. And I just love this panel of just this farmer watching the UFO in the foreground. Look how interesting that art is. It's very stylized. And so, they do this a few times, so everyone's talking about this UFO in the area. And they explain the science of it once again, and it's so stupid. Like this unmanned flying saucer somehow boomerangs back to them all the time. It's really dumb. So it's got a missile. I'm sorry, they buy an old Sabre jet. They give it the kind of missile that totally burns everything it hits. A thermite bomb. That's the name. And they figure one of them will fly up, shoot down the fake UFO. The thermite bomb will destroy all evidence. It'll just totally burn it to a crisp. Also, it'll explain why there's no crew on board. They'll just say, oh my God, they were just incinerated. So he goes out there and he's going to attack the UFO. All of a sudden, a real UFO above the cloud line. They say, hey, what the hell's going on down there? I thought we were the only scout ship in this quadrant. Here's the cute little aliens. They look very scary. And especially there, look at the... with their little lips. They say, oh my God, that must... it's painted red. All of our ships are painted black. It must be the Earthmen have made a flying saucer. We must destroy it. So they come down. Nobody can see them. They have stealth technology. And they attack the fake UFO with an atomic ray. Of course, the pilot is flummoxed. He's just like, I was about to shoot that UFO, and a real UFO came out of nowhere and shot it. So I'm going to chase it, because it's, probably hostile. And he uses his thermite bomb, and he hits the flying saucer. It cripples the ship. They blow themselves up, so no evidence of their technology can be found. And it's completely vaporized. So there's no evidence of it. Meanwhile, he lands, and turns out the UFO, their fake UFO, landed in a sand dune, so it wasn't completely destroyed. And the cops are there, and they're like, what's this? Oh, sorry, I just realized these guys aren't brothers. They're just partners. Thompson & Stone model aircraft? So these guys, their whole scheme pretty much revolved around that nobody could know that it was not an alien ship. And they put their plaque on it. I thought that was so idiotic. I like that panel, though. It's such an interesting face, the way he draws. So the cops arrest him for fraud. And then they always have those panels where the character turns to the reader and he even says, reader, you believe me, don't you? It's like, yeah, we just read your story. We saw it. We're omniscient because we're reading your comic. This one I liked too when I was a kid. Earth Hero #1. Story by Gardner Fox. Art by Gil Kane and Murphy Anderson. Murphy Anderson's a very heavy inker because it looks more like Murphy Anderson than Gil Kane, but it does have enough Gil Kane that it's a great combo because Murphy Anderson really tightens up Gil Kane, maybe too much. But I kind of like Murphy Anderson's super clean detail line. So once again, splash page setting us up with some quandary, like, oh, how the hell did this happen? Well, now we're going to find out. We're in the far-flung future. A school teacher's teaching her children about Earth history. And she says, this one mailman saved all of Earth without 1,000 years ago. Let's look at the televiewer. So I guess they're looking through time. Oh, excuse me. And we see this mailman. This flying saucer picks him up with his grappling beam. They put a telepathic communicator on him, and they say, we're from another planet, and we want to use your brain to issue a command to all of Earth. And there's that thing Gil Kane always does. He loves to draw random heads. Of course, Earth attacks the UFO to no avail. They've got these repeller or force field. But every time they attack it, they find out that the Earth's water is being poisoned by radioactivity. So the aliens, when they used the mailman's brain, they basically asked for Earth to capitulate and surrender. And Earth does. We find out on the spaceship, they're like, ooh, good thing they acceded to our demands, because we would have had to just turn away. Because if they just kept attacking us, and we would have had to use our force field, it would have just irradiated all the water, and that's why we're here. So apparently they did that when they were testing these force fields in their planet. They ruined all the water, so they got none. So they dropped these bags into the bodies of water on Earth. They swell up, full of water, and then anti-gravity things make them float up into the sky. They're basically just going to steal all of our water. I forgot to mention, guys, this is a plot thing. So this mailman apparently is a real busybody. And the first time we see him, he's looking through his mail being he knows everything that his clients order. He's like, book of the month again for Judy Sanders. And for Molly Kraft, who can't sleep nights, the usual present from her doctor. I wouldn't want the mailman going through my shit and knowing everything I order. Greg's boner pills. Craig Petix's boner pills. That would not be, I don't like that idea. So these aliens are thirsty as hell, and they decide to reward themselves with a victory toast of water, and they can drink all the water they want for once, because they've been rationing. So they've got their little Water Express flying choo-choo train, all set up to go back to their planet. They make a toast. All of a sudden, that ship crashes into Earth. And the mailman opens the door of the craft. He says, hey, soldiers, come on in. The invaders won't be able to stop you. And they're all passed out. Turns out, Molly Kraft suffers from insomnia. One of his people on his route, the lady he was talking about earlier, and she gets these sleeping pills, these super strong sleeping pills. He put them in the water. He knew they were going to drink a lot of it because they were thirsty. And then it has kind of a strange ending where the Earth, I don't know if it's the president, he says, all you had to do is ask. We would have given you water. With your technology, you could cause lots of rain here. And there's empty craters all over the world. And you could take all that water without causing any inconvenience. So the aliens return to their planet with all this water. And they say, thanks to the mailman, we were saved from harming our new friends on Earth. And at the end of the story, you find out that these kids go to the school named after him, Calvin Jackson. This is the main reason I will never get rid of this comic. I loved this comic so much as a kid, and I think I kind of love it now. Very dumb, too. But, God, look at these Aliens. These are so fun. This is a story by Otto Binder, art by Sid Green and Bernie Sachs. The Riddle of Spaceman X. Really like that zany logo there. So, I'm not even, this is a very odd story. We see these two men carrying out ESP experiments. One of them receives a voice in his head. It's not his buddy. It's from a spaceman. It's saying, "Attention, my spaceship will make a forced landing near you. Please meet me." So they go out there. They see the spaceship. I guess they have to make repairs or something. The alien can't come out. He's talking to them with telepathy. He can't come out for like a week because the pressure difference. It's almost like he'd get the bends or something. It takes a week to depressurize. So the younger guy says, "Are you human? Can you describe yourself?" And the alien says, "All I can tell you now is that I am the product of final evolution, if you can picture that." So over the course of the week, and of course it's a cause célèbre, reporters are coming to the ship, and the alien starts asking for things. And due to what the alien requests, everyone makes these really dunderheaded predictions of what the alien looks like. So he asks for 6 pairs of pliers. And so this one guy thinks, why would he need 6 of the same tool? Perhaps he's a strange creature who can work with all 6 hands. Apparently, the alien asked for 3 giant lenses from an optometrist. And the optometrist is like, yeah, I bet he's a giant with 3 eyes. That's my favorite guy. He's hilarious. And then one guy, a brush maker, makes a little tiny brush for him. So he figures, this obviously indicates he's some small furry creature who has to brush his hair with a tiny little brush. And we see this weird little rodent-looking thing. Well, kind of monkey rodent. He asks for oil. So this gas station attendant assumes he must be a robot. He even says, who else would ask for oil but a robot? People who use oil, mechanics, anyone who drives a car. It's so silly and so dumb. The alien asks for glass cleaner. He must be a glass man. He's just so he can clean himself. I'm sure he has no glass in the UFO. Oh, this guy, he orders some sawdust, so this farmer assumes he must be a giant tree who a queer critter eats it, I reckon. I don't see why a tree would eat sawdust. That would be like me eating my toenails or my expectorants. As for bird seed, he assumes it's a big bird man. He asks for molten lava. Someone figures he's like the Human Torch. This one I like, just a great drawing. He asks for new neon tubing. So this guy assumes he must be a neon being. That doesn't even make sense. And then here's some other guesses. I love this battery guy. He reminds me of that Jack Kirby, Joe Simon Sandman comic with that guy Brute, with his face is all squished up. There's a magnet man with springs. So finally the big day comes. He's going to open the door. It's been a week. And once again, this guy talks to the reader. He looks at us and says, have you formed a mental image of Spaceman X? I'll give you a hint. Whatever you guessed will be correct, he says. And the door opens. And all of these ludicrous ideas for the alien walk out. And of course, everyone's stunned. Says, yeah, I told you. That everyone sees what they thought it would be. And this guy explains it to us. It turns out, this Spaceman X, as he's been dubbed, he's basically a massive intelligent energy. That's all he is. By the sheer power of mind over matter, each person momentarily molds the energy being into the form he visions. What he thinks it should look like. It's my tree man who likes sawdust for dinner. And he says, what's your original physical form? And the alien says, this, human like yours. And so even though he's a intelligent energy, he's shaped like a man. And then he says, thanks for your help, farewell. And he goes away. But man, I love these guys. This parade of mutants. So dopey looking. We have a Bob Rozakis writes this little, well, he transcribes the story of this UFO debunker who actually meets, someone who kind of proves him wrong about UFOs. I'm not going to get into it. It's pretty bad. And who could forget this advertisement, which was in almost every single comic I read as a child. So there you go, guys. Super DC Giant number 27. This was the last issue of the series. And I don't really necessarily recommend this comic. Well, actually, I mean, yeah, I do. Because the Russ, Heath, and Carmen Infantino art. And the Goon Squad down here. But I just love it. I mean, I'm never going to get rid of it, probably. It's definitely, every time I was flipping through the pages, every page I was like, holy shit. Like, it was burned in my memory. Because, when you're little, you buy a comic, you read it 70 times. Especially in the days before internet, before VCRs. You eventually get tired of watching TV for 6 hours a day. And then you reread your comics. Because you didn't have a lot of money to buy thousands of them. You just had a little stack, and it was like, oh, I'm going to reread this one. And almost every page I flipped, I was just like, zap, right into my brain. My memory lobes were just like charged up. So I hope you guys like looking at that. This comic, I definitely did. I had a good time. I haven't popped this open in probably 30 years. But thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.